Hello, welcome to Monday Night Paranormal Live with myself, Paul, and Jenny from Host for Ghosts, Angela from South Coast Ghosts, Julia from founder of Paranation Ghost Hunted Event, and one of our investigators, Luke. So we want to wish you from the panel happy Easter, and hope you all had a great long weekend and not drunk too much or feel too rough, ready for work tomorrow. Ooh. Back to reality tomorrow.
Too many chucky eggs.
Yes. All having chocolate withdrawals now. So tonight we're going to talk about haunted pubs, and not the spirits behind the bar, but all the haunted pubs. So if you have any questions or any experiences with haunted pubs, please get in contact. Angela will put them on the screen for us so we can read them out. We have lots of experience with haunted pubs. Angela's had a few, Julia, myself, and Luke. We've had a very similar experience, haven't we, Luke?
Yeah.
Yeah, you still there? Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Keep moving, Luke, so we know you're still with us. And your screen, that's better. So your screen's not frozen. Yeah. So we've all had experience in haunted pubs. So, as I say, please get in contact with us. Your messages will come onto the screen and we'll answer them or we'll read them out. So if you have any experiences that you've had, good, bad, ugly, whatever ones you've had in a pub, it's always a good thing. So let's say, hope we had a good Easter. So, pubs, who would like to go first then? Angela? No? Angela's off. Look, she's just...
Sorry. Just going to clean my glasses so I can see properly.
Okay, I'll go first then. I did a haunted pub many years ago, many years. I'm not quite sure how long ago, but it makes me sound old if I say many years. So we'll skip that bit. We'll edit that bit out of that. Myself and Luke went to a haunted pub in Ripley. Very haunted. And Luke had quite an experience within the pub. We were there from just after closing time. So it was on around about what time, Luke, do you reckon? About 10 o'clock-ish onwards?
When it finished or when it...
When it started. It was... Because the pub had just shut, hadn't it? And we were in there.
10,
Yeah, and then obviously we had a guided tour around the pub and down the cellar. Then the pub also had rooms next door, were like cottages that adjoin the pub. So we started off with what I can remember was a spirit board. We got some good communication with it, but it was a really strange pub. It dates back, it's on the A3, so it was on the main road between London and Brighton. So it was a very, it was a coaching house, very much of a coaching house.
Near Woking. Near Woking.
That's it, yeah, just outside of Woking. Not far from Brookwood Cemetery, was it, really?
That's right, yeah.
A few miles from Brookwood Cemetery. So it's on the main route between London and Brighton, like Luke said, just outside of Woking. So obviously we arrived there and got the walk around by the landlord, and he sort of explains a few bits that happened around the pub, especially when it's closing time. He seemed to think it was more to do with the energy of the pub being all day with people in and out. It's a very popular pub, backwards and forwards. And many years ago, it was a coaching house. So people would stop there, and a lot of sailors would stop there on the way between London and Portsmouth as they were travelling. So it would always be around about halfway. So they would stop, because obviously their journey was a lot longer to go from London to Portsmouth than it is today. So they would stop there, have a drink and whatever, and carry on with their journey or not carry on with their journey. Depends how drunk they got. But we were there this night, and I was down the cellar, and at first it was quiet in the cellar because the cellar was behind the bar, so you had to be careful with people walking around the pub. It didn't drop down the hole in the cellar. So every time you went down, you had to shut the door behind you, which made it even more eerier in there. Hi, good evening, Ghost Dragon Investigations. Thank you for tuning in. We're talking about haunted pubs, and I'm sure, hi Dora.
Dora.
So I'm sure Ghost Dragon Investigations have been in a few haunted pubs. I think we all have at some stage. So you had to close the hatch behind you, and we were down there for 20 minutes. There was taps and knocks, but being in the cellar, you wonder whether that was beer barrels and pumps, and you have all that type of equipment. So you really got to try and debunk noises that you heard. Hi, Francis Giles. Hi, how are you? Thank you for tuning in tonight. Anyway, we were sitting down. There was about 4 or 5 of us. Thanks, Jim. Was down the cellar, and we could hear what sounded like keys jingling, jing, 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 like someone was trying to unlock something. But we were the only ones down there, and we were sitting on the barrels because there's obviously nowhere to sit. But this key jingling went on for quite a while, and then it was so dark in there you couldn't really see a great deal unless you put the lights on. But that spoils the ambience within it. So we heard like a tap tap, and it sounded to me like a really old gate opening, like a real old creek. But we couldn't see anything in there. We're shining a torch. There's obviously solid walls and bare barrels and all this sort of stuff. So we're down there, and like I say, we could hear jingling of keys and what sounded like an old gate opening. Really strange, like creak. So anyway, we had our bit down there. We came out, and I said to the landlord, "At your cellar, do you have an old-fashioned gate?" And he went, "Oh, funny you should say that. It's bricked in behind the wall where you were sitting. There's an old gate that would lead out to a path where a lot of the smugglers, if the police turned up, they would run down the cellar through the gate and out into the fields opposing it. So they would run off." But he said he's had a few noises down there, but we literally heard what sounded like an old gate moving. Whether it was moving in the wind or something was in there, I don't know. But he said that's been bricked up for 50, 60 years. They've never used the gate.
Gosh.
But the tunnel leads out into the field. And I said to him, "Have you ever been out through the tunnel?" He said, No, 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 no. He said it was bricked up when he took over ownership. Anyway, so we carried on in the main bar area, and there's lots of knocks, taps, and very strange ambience with it. And then I got to hear that Luke was going to stay the night in one of the cottages. So a few of us went to the cottage next door. Luke will tell you the story in a minute, his story. Yeah. So we went next door. I think Luke was there. We went up to one of the rooms upstairs, didn't we? Where the bathroom was.
Yeah.
So we were sitting on the bed. As you sort of open the door, you go in, the bed's on your left, the bathroom was over on your right. So we're all sitting there calling out. And I think one of the other investigators, Jackie, would remember this. They were all sitting in there. And every time you went from the main bedroom into the bathroom, it was freezing. Freezing cold bathroom. Wasn't it, Luke? Every time.
Yeah, the bathroom was weird, yeah.
Yeah. And you go in the bathroom and you had a real weird sensation within that bathroom. Yeah. So we came out. There's nobody else in the cottage because you could go downstairs and upstairs in the rooms. So there's nobody downstairs. We were all upstairs. And we were doing the calling out, the normal calling out. Anybody here, can you contact us? And then we heard what sounded like, I don't know, like something coming up the stairs. Do you remember, Luke? And we looked out and there was obviously no one on the stairs. So, well, that's strange. Maybe it's an old cottage or a car going past is making the whole place vibrate and move. But just as we sat down, we called out and the bathroom went dark as dark, but the main room we were in was still light, wasn't it? And then suddenly the bedroom door slammed with such a bang. I mean, I don't get scared that easy. I must have jumped about 6 foot off the bed and ended up running around the other side of the bed. It really slammed. You could hear someone go, because it had like a really old-fashioned lock, like a horse's, like a, I can't remember what they call them now. Like you push the handle and the hook comes up, that tight, and it slammed. And we couldn't get the door open for a little while. And then suddenly the door opened. So that was a good experience in there. And then obviously Luke will tell you his story about when he stayed there the night. Do you want to tell your story, Luke?
Well, yeah. I think before everyone left, someone said that a man killed someone in that bit while I was staying. That made it worse as well.
So tell us your story.
Yeah, they made me. I thought someone else was going to stay there, but I was on my own. No one else stayed. I was on my own. He gave me the choice of, do you want to stay in the cottage or in the main bit upstairs above the pub? And I said the cottage would be all right. It was the wrong choice. I think that one was. It's worse in the cottage than the pub, and more active in the cottage.
Oh.
But they made me like emotional for some reason. I get panicking. I had to call 111 to. I didn't know what to do. No one was answering me. I had to call for help.
Oh.
Yeah, been that emotional. I don't know why I made me that for.
And it turns out that when you look at the history of the pub, there was a woman that worked behind the bar there I don't know how, 100 years ago, whatever it was. And then she went missing and they couldn't find her, didn't know where she was or what had happened to her. But in them days, that would be it, really. If you couldn't find the body, that would be the end, like not like nowadays. And then on the board, it said, Woods, I am, find me. So it turns out when we did a history check after, that they actually found her body about 60 years after she was murdered, when they were at altering the road. They found her body in the woods just down the road from the pub, but nobody thought of looking at. Hi, Christine. Welcome to Monday night. Happy Easter to you and everybody else. So they found her body or her bones just down the road because there's a bit forest down the road from there. And they found that when they were altering the road to make it become a better road, it's when they come across the grave. And they assumed it's her that went missing from the pub is who they found down the road. So that could be why Luke was emotional, because she may have been murdered in one of the cottages, because they were the original cottages that went with the pub, weren't they, Luke?
Yeah, I kept sensing that something happened to her family there, and I said sorry to the family. I'm sorry I kept saying I'm sorry what you went through.
But you ended up leaving, didn't you, in the early hours?
Yeah, I don't think the door. I couldn't shut the door, so I think the door was half open. The door wouldn't shut either. I don't know why the door wouldn't shut.
A really, really creepy place.
I tried
very, very creepy.
Tried to contact the landlord, but he was sleeping.
We've been in an extremely haunted pub, and we had to excise and cleanse it after we had been there. We were politely asked not to return. Now we've calmed it all down. So that's my story of a haunted pub. Who's next?
Yeah, I did one a few years ago. I've done a few haunted pubs. I think we did the Ostrich about 2 or 3 years ago. And myself and Angela stayed over all night. We had like a hotel room each, and I could hear footsteps walking up and down the corridor, and I opened up the corridor, there was no one there. So that was quite I don't really think I slept that night. That was quite chilling. And it was a weird place. It was in the summer. I think it was like June, but the whole pub was like piping hot. It was so hot, as if they had the heating on. It was, you were just melting, absolutely melting. And then I did another one down in the Red Lion down in Southampton, and this was a long, long, long time ago. And we were down in the cellar. There was 6 of us, 3 on one side, 3 on the other side. We were just standing there, just seeing if we can get anything down there. We said, "Can you throw something?" We had this like little like ping type thing, as if someone had just thrown a stone, but didn't really think anything of it. Heard some scratching noise, like, oh, it could have been a mouse, or something, scratching about down there. And then all of a sudden, it was quite dark down there. You could hear this. You just saw this. Sorry, ran some work done, and it's noise in the background. This figure. I felt it was a man. It was very tall and stocky, and he just walked. There was 3 one side, 3 the other side, and he just like walked straight down the middle of where we were standing. And it was dark down there, but he was darker than the dark, but you could see him. And I grabbed the lady next to me, the poor lady, and I just grabbed her, because that's, you had these like sort of like, if something scares you, like babies, they put their arms up like that. I always grab something. So I grabbed this lady next to me, poor lady. I was going, "Oh my God, did you see that?" Everyone saw it. Everyone saw this man just walk straight through. So that was probably, I think if anybody wants to see a ghost, that's probably that's really good example.
Did you ever find out who it was?
No, you know what it's like, because we do like one after the other, it's very difficult to try and put time in to investigate, you know, who was there or who it was or anything. It's very hard to try and do any sort of like research, you know.
Yeah,
with
just trying to keep up with it all, isn't it?
It is, you know,
Yeah.
just trying to get the photos and the videos from that night sort of uploaded is a task in itself. And yeah, but yeah, that's my story. Oh, we did do the red line, just a quick one, a red line in
Yeah.
Basingstoke, and I'd done it a few times, and one time I did it, it's a room, and it's all like padded panel, not padded, wooden panels. It's been a long day, wooden panelled, and I took a photo, and it looks like there's a glowing orangey face in a mirror. Went back a few months later, and we were doing the board, and this lady called Queenie came through, and she said that she died in a fire here. And there was only about 6 of us in the room. And I said, did I take a photo of you, a photograph of you, on our last visit? And I got it up on my phone. I said, look, this is the photo I took. Is this you? I said, I took it in the mirror. I said, it looks like, you know, face on fire type thing. And the whole room just took on a completely different atmosphere. And there was this big draft, and it got so scary that we just said, you know, I think we ought to stop talking about this lady in the fire, because it got really quite heavy in there. Or you could feel this wind. Where's the wind coming from?
That just scared people, I reckon. That's probably where the wind's coming from.
Yeah, wasn't that type of wind, but yeah. I'm sure if you went.
Sorry, Julie. Francis Giles said, "Stay." Was it stay there?
Yeah, said the red line is 100% haunted. She stays there.
There you go. I think just a quick one. I think one of the most haunted places pubs Jen's been in was the Lamb, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The night in the Lamb. Do you remember when it all kicked off upstairs?
The eyes.
Oh my word! And then Darren seeing that man looking up the stairs, and if I remember rightly, didn't you see that man there before, looking up the stairs or whatever it was? I remember Darren saying, "I can't believe this, what we've just seen."
Yeah,
but
I think our last visit, we were looking down the stairs, and we saw this man do roughly the same as what he did when Darren saw him. He walked in from the back door. He went into where the toilets were. He came out. He went to shut the door. He looked upstairs at us, and then he just went. And I remember saying to Neil, and I said, what gives him the right to, you know, just like walking off the street? And then I said, maybe, you know, he's got this like agreement where he can like just nip into the loo if he needs the loo. I said, and then we thought about it. We thought, well, there's nowhere open. It's just a normal street, you know. It's like there's nowhere open. And it was about 11:30 at night, which is roughly the same time that they saw the man as well. But we just thought, what's he? You know, we haven't allowed him to come in. Who is this guy? You know, because there was just one caretaker on site. And he had like a suit on, and we thought, oh, maybe you know, the caretaker guy just lets him come in and use the loo. But then maybe it wasn't a loo, maybe it's the stables or something else.
Yeah.
And maybe he was the landlord or something. But yeah, but to see him twice, very scary.
Gemma's put the Lamb is the most haunted pub I've ever been in. It was one of my favourite places, and gutted we can't go there anymore. But I remember being upstairs with Jen. I think Dora was up there. Yeah, Dora's put, oh God, the Lamb. I remember being upstairs, I think with me, myself, Jen, Dora, the ladies that do the mirror scrying. Who else was there? Wendy was there. And we were sitting in there doing table tipping. Very strange.
It was Gemma as well.
Might have been Gemma. We were doing table tipping. The table was going mad like he does. But well, this is really good contact. Then suddenly it was bang, 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 bang with the table, and then boom, nothing. Just that sudden stop and that sudden, you know, where there is silence, but there is a deathly silence.
Yeah.
And I'm like looking around thinking, oh, And I went and sat in the bathroom with one of the other ladies. She was sitting up on a chair in the bathroom, and I was sitting on the floor by the shower, looking into the main room. All of a sudden, what?
I said to you,
Oh
are
yeah.
you standing up, Paul?
And I went, no.
And I said, oh my God, there's this figure standing up in the mirror.
You could see what looked like a man standing in the mirror, looking in the room. And of course, by this time, there was such a scream and commotion. I went to get up, and I felt like hands on my shoulder hold me down on the floor, so I couldn't get back up. Me and the lady were fighting to get out the little door because they're only tiny doors. So you didn't run bang into the door. We're sort of fighting each other to get out the door. I said, "Oh, get off me!" And I sort of bolted out into the main room. The table was kicked over. Everybody was over the other side of the bed, and they was hugging each other. And then the lady said they'll try mirror scrying on the mirror, big mirror there. And that's something that I will never forget what we saw in that mirror. And these ladies are so brilliant at this scrying. It is just unreal how good they are. And she said, well, I'll have a go and see what we can get. And it's the first time I think I've ever been in a place where I've been creeped out, because she was looking at the mirror with the little light under her face, and she was sort of sitting there, and we were saying, if anybody's there, can you come through? Can you show yourself? And all of a sudden, her face looked like it was changing. She had like sideburns and a moustache, but her eyes, although her head was straight looking at the glass, her eyes were looking around the room at each one of us. That was the most creepiest thing. But her head didn't move, but the eyes did, like the face was moving within her. And then her friend had a go, and she had the same thing, where the eyes would look at each one of us individually in the room. So creepy. They were brilliant. They were so good at it. And it's the most creepiest thing I'd ever seen that night, was them eyes, wasn't it? The way it looked around the room, I'm thinking,
because they were so
God.
wide and white, but you could see them looking,
just
as if they were
unbelievable.
bigger than her eyes. They were like looking.
Yeah.
And
they
I
looked
was
at
like
everybody.
I took loads and loads of photos at the time. And when I look back at my photos, there's loads of photos, and there's a blank black one, then loads and loads of photos, and a blank black one. And at the time I thought, oh my God, why have I got blank photos where they shouldn't be blank photos? So
I'd say that was probably the most creepiest I've had. But the eyes, the way they looked at each and into what, like I don't know how to describe it. It was just creepy, very, very creepy. I know Angela's got. Oh, Gemma's put, hi everyone, it's Gemma. I stayed in the Bugle pub years ago when we did the boat museum. Me and Julius Sibley stayed in one of the rooms, and no word of a lie, as soon as we got into bed, turned the lights off, we could feel breathing and heard someone walking around the bed. We had her up and turned the bathroom light on. I hid under the covers all night. I was sweating so much. I've never experienced anything like it. Gemma, I'm surprised you stayed there. You didn't make it out the door and run. You imagine, I think I'd rather be above covers. If I'm hiding my head under a cover, you can't see what's coming, can you? Stuff that. I'd rather see what's coming towards me than hide. I think I used to hide under cover when I was a kid because of the monsters, that sort of thing. But I think I'd rather keep my head above the covers now. If I can see something coming, I know what I'm going to do. But I'm surprised Gemma stayed there tonight. I know Angela's got some stories she'd like to tell. Haunted pubs. Over to you, Angela.
I've done quite a few haunted pubs, but a lot of them were probably about 10 or more years ago. And I can't remember where they were or what they were called, and I can only remember bits of what happened. But I know that it's always something happens in a pub. It's always kind of a good venue to do, because they're not massive places, so you can't sort of wander off and get lost. But always something happens. And we did the Bugle the end of November, I think it was 2023. There's a little picture of the thingy.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
They've got their board of ghosts there, because they've got lots of rooms that people can stay in. And I think for each room, people have seen different ghosts. So they sort of have a board with all the different ghosts they have. And this fireplace here is said to come from Titchfield Abbey, which is literally just down the road.
All right.
there's a man that sort of haunts the downstairs area, and he's always just like a black shadow. And people have seen him sort of mainly during the day when they're at work, like the cooks and the bar staff, just sort of see him walking down the corridor or something. Even the staff there that didn't believe in any of this, and then they saw him, they're like, oh my God. So
They don't work there anymore then.
and last time I went in there, sometime last year, and I spoke to Natasha, who owns the place, and she was saying that not long ago she'd had another sort of paranormal investigator in there. I don't think they were in there to do anything particular. They were just walking past and something drew them in. And she picked up on this man, and apparently she got that he was there because he wasn't happy about the fireplace that had been removed from the abbey. He was some kind of monk type person. There wasn't monks there, I can't remember the name, but he was that kind of person.
Yeah.
But I don't know about all the other people that haunt there. And I can't quite remember what happened on the investigation, because I have such a bad memory. But you were all there as well, so I don't know if you can remember.
I remember Jenny drawing a picture of a monk when she was there, and also the lady that died in the graveyard behind.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that? When Jenny did her spirit art, and she drew that lady, and we weren't sure, were we, who she was. And yet, when we Googled it, she was one of the ladies that was murdered in the graveyard behind. And drew a picture of a monk, didn't you?
Yeah.
I know Andrew and myself, we went off and took a group, didn't we? We were in a bedroom, but I think we got a maid. But as I say, it's so long, it's a little while ago, and it's quite hard to remember. But I think we got a maid, and it was quite creepy. I think we got, off the top of my head, I can't remember what we got.
I think having the board is a good idea, isn't it? People writing down what they say. I think it's quite a good idea in a pub, isn't it?
Yeah. I guess it would generate interest as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I think they've caught on CCTV some things happening in the bar area as well. I can't remember if it was glass moving or some things happened. I didn't get around to looking for those videos.
Wow.
But you've got the very famous Jamaica Inn down in Cornwall, which I think most people have probably been to by now, whether it's just popping into the actual pub or doing an actual investigation. But to the museum there several years ago, which was good, and we've Darren did a little YouTube video on his I don't know which one it's on, but I'll put a link to it in the description. People can have a look if they want. That's an interesting place.
I stayed in room 5 of the Jamaica Inn.
Oh yeah,
that's the one with the 4-poster bed, and we stayed awake sort of like most of the night, in between like trying to sort of like sleep, and you're supposed to hear like horses' hooves and that outside, but I don't know whether it was because we'd done a lot of traveling and our energies were quite low, but we didn't really get much. But then we did sort of like sleep, and we went with some another couple, and they sort of like they stayed in room 4. So it's we sort of did a little bit of ghost hunting, but
you also did the ancient ram, didn't you, Julia?
Yes, did the ancient ram as well. That I'd love to go back there. I feel that there's more to be done there. The Skirridin, I popped in for a drink and a little look around, so I didn't ghost hunt there, but I did pop in. You know what it's like, you got to pop in. Oh, and I popped into the Golden Fleece up in York a couple of months ago. So yeah, I just wish it was nearer. I wish it was down here, because it just has that heavy atmosphere, and you can get some stuff in there. That was
we did one we went to a pub in, was it Rye, the haunted
the Mermaid
Inn. Me and Jen went there for lunch once. That's quite a place to walk into. You can tell, can't you, as soon as you walk into these old pubs, you think, this dates back a long time, this place. What others have you got, Angela? Oh, Francis Giles put the White Hart in Basingstoke, you hear horses and carts pull up, and the barrels roll across the gravel on their own, and the stalls get pushed over. There you go, Julia. Do a live from the White Hart. Rolling out the
Really
barrel.
interesting. I may look into that. I may look into that one. But it's the hardest thing with pubs is, you know, I think we've also done like the Crown in Alton, but with pubs, it's difficult because you have to start after closing, which is about 11:30, and
Yeah.
you go to about, well, I think 3 or 4 in the morning, and it's just, I think, you know, by sort of like 11 o'clock at night, people are sort of like thinking, you know, do I go out and have a, you know, do a ghost hunt? But I guess you can go out and have like a meal and then do the ghost hunt. So, you know, get there for 11, 11:30, and then go through till 3 in the morning. You know, so it is possible. It is possible if the venue's, you know, you believe the venue's worth doing. But you know, some pubs will let you go in there earlier, but you only have the upstairs, and then after closing time, you'll have like downstairs, which, you know, by the time you get to downstairs, it's like midnight, and you're like, oh, I've only really got 2 hours left, you know. So it's, yeah, pubs are great, but they can be sort of difficult to hire.
Yeah. What others have you got, Angela?
Well, I was reading in the 14 magazine I had an article about haunted pubs and how they seem to be in decline. But I was reading about one which is called the New Wellington in Newmarket. And they posted a video at the beginning of the year, CCTV one, where they were just starting to clean up at the end of the evening, and there were some glasses left on a table, and the guys had literally just walked away. And then as the guy was coming to clean them up, it just sort of exploded. I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. So I thought I'd see if I can find the video. Hopefully I can put the video up here. I have to do a screen share. So we'll see how this goes. Bear with me. Bear with me. Screen
Don't
share.
you worry.
Window. That
Got
one.
interference on there for
A
now.
lot of noise. Oh,
Can you
here we
see
go.
it?
Yes, yes.
Yep.
Hang on, I'm going to play it. There we go.
Oh.
It just sort of pops. And I can't see anything that could have been doing it. I can't think of a reason why it might have just done that.
It just suddenly goes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
That's really good.
Yeah, I thought that was quite interesting.
Because it's not as if it's like a temperature thing where the glass is just, you know, because people have been sitting there, people have been having a drink.
Yeah.
So it's not as if you can say, oh, well, you know, the glass came out of a cold fridge and was put onto, you know, a warm table in a warm room, and it's just like went like that because of the temperature. But yeah.
It looks like it actually lifts and explodes, doesn't it? Did you notice that? Like it actually lifts. I'm not sure whether it does or not, but it does look like it comes up a bit and then explodes. That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. And then while I was looking for that video, I found another couple of videos from the same pub, and it was exactly the same table, and the same thing happened where a glass exploded, but it had drink in it. But also a glass moved across the table first. And a lot of people experience a glass moving on a table in a pub, and they say that's down to where the table might be at an angle, and you know, you get condensation and it sort of might pool under and it just makes it a bit. So you could debunk a lot of those, I think. But I'll see if I can play this one as well.
Oh,
that's one that slides, so I thought, I'm not sure about that. But then there's the
that's strange, isn't it?
one that just explodes as well.
Yeah,
it's pretty much a full pint.
Yeah, isn't it? You think how much pressure it would take to crush that? or
Yeah,
break that with that liquid in it.
I don't know.
That's it. I wouldn't go to that pub because that looks like an expensive pub. Keep losing your pint. That could be a very harsh night, couldn't it? That one.
Yeah. I
We
just
went to
wonder
a
if
pub.
anyone watching has experienced that, like a glass smashing or
Yeah.
moving
If
or
you have,
anything like
just
that.
comment, just comment in on your, shall we say, pub crawls. So if you had any glass breaking, glass smashing, we've had table tipping, but other than that, just contact us. Luke, have you done any other pubs? What about the one you go to? Your local?
Mm.
Yeah, the landlord said he has weird stuff happening upstairs there.
Like
And
what?
He didn't say it. He didn't say any more. That's all he said.
Yeah.
I know his daughter said she had an orb in her room one night because they live in the pub above it. And
Yeah.
across the road from the pub, I've happened 2 times. I see like a man standing looking over at the road. Then he disappears. Got an old-fashioned like cap on his head. Start looking over at the pub like he used to own it or used to go there at one point.
And have you ever found out who it was, or?
Not really nice because it's over the road from the pub. I was sort of sitting down.
Right. And was it about the same time at night as you're coming out, or?
I would just sitting outside bit in the garden, the front of it. It's caught my eye across the road. I thought someone was standing there, but then there was no one there.
Oh wow.
Hmm.
Gemma's put on. I don't know what that's come through on Messenger. Not sure if this was something, but I've just missed it. It's just gone off. I don't know if she put it on the chat. But
Yeah,
it
I
just
see if I can get it on the screen.
came on and went off, didn't it?
Bear with me.
Oh, I missed
So if
that.
anybody out, you're doing well. You're doing very well. So if anybody out there's had similar experiences with haunted pubs, get in contact. Was it something else you'd like us to talk about? So we've all had a few bits happen and been to haunted places. I think, like Julie said, it's difficult to do a pub in at a location because you're restricted on time, you're restricted where you go, and it's if there's people staying there upstairs.
Yeah, she said,
Yes, I
not
remember
sure
this
if
one.
this was anything to do with the man in the blue suit at the bottom of the stairs of that creepy room of the lamb. I think there's like a blue something there.
I think on the right of the photo,
Yeah.
he's got his standing on the right. If you look at the and it's not very clear, but you can see the carpet. You see the person on the carpet, and then as you go from like left to right, you can see. I think I did lighten it for Gemma. I'll see if I can find.
Yeah.
Interesting picture, because that's the one where you said you saw him looking up, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And was that door there?
Yeah.
That had lots of bits going on in there, though, didn't it? In the lamp.
Yeah.
Downstairs, I think people heard conversations going on. There was tapping and all sorts of things. Cat balls kept going off. I just thought of one. Can't remember. It's gone now. It'll come back to me. Another pub.
The Oxford one.
Which one was that?
Not the old girl.
We went to the Crown.
Yeah.
We went to the Crown, which was 14. Dates back to when was it said? 15th century, something like that. Is in Oxted. It's the oldest pub in Oxted, and he was telling us a bit about it. It's a very, very small pub.
Sorry.
Nope, it's got.
Forget that.
It's a very, very small pub.
Zoomed in.
So when you go into the pub, there's no bar downstairs. You go straight upstairs, and the bar's up above you. And he was explaining the bar was up on the second floor was because when they first built roads for cars, automobiles, as they were right back in the turn when the century with the cars, the hill that went past the pub was so steep, so the ground floor would have been the cellar. So it was so steep, the road. So what they had to do was bring the road down past the pub. So the road being like that, so what they did was they cut the hill down. So the cellar became the first floor. as the pub as the road. So he lowered it because cars couldn't get up the hill. So the ground floor or the cellar became the ground floor of the pub, and then the upstairs was like the restaurant. And we were down there doing a board on the Ouija board with some people. They had like a shanty band that was staying there, so you can imagine how noisy that was. The right pain, weren't they? Anyway, we were doing the board, and we had this man. I think his name was Tom, and he used to sit in this alcove with his dog, and this, that, and the other. So we're just calling out, and I thought, what? I was just sitting there. I had this feeling that something was around the room because they had these tables set out with different boards on them, so people were doing all different ones. And then what I felt was like a dog scratching at my leg. And I sort of looked around and thought, oh, there's a dog. And I said to the landlady, your dog's got out. And I could see it walking off with its tail wagging. And Jen saw the tail wagging. So I said to the landlady, oh, your dog's out. She said, we don't have a dog. I said, but who was the dog that's walking along? She said, we don't have a dog. I said, do you have a cat? She said, no, we don't have any pets here. The only person that had a dog that was allowed in here was old Tom that sat in the alcove with his dog.
Oh.
And I literally felt it pouring at my leg to make like it wanted something.
Yeah.
And I remember turning around thinking, oh, it's a dog. And then sort of Jen saw the tail, and it was walking its way between the tables. And
Is that
then just
Molly dog?
disappeared. Sorry?
Is that Molly dog woofing?
Yeah, that's Molly. Somebody's
Molly.
walked off the front door. Oh no.
Scary stuff over down there, isn't it? Scary stuff down there.
Yeah. Down and don't go Portsmouth, people, after dark.
Oh no.
Sort of zoomed in one of what Gemma sent. You can see the blue a bit more clear there.
Yeah. Strange, isn't it? There is something there, but it's difficult to make it out. But it's a good picture, isn't it?
Jem, if you send it to me, maybe I can like lighten it a bit. I could do that quickly.
Yeah.
Now.
And that was the place where you saw the man looking up the stairs a couple of times, didn't it? First time and the second time round. Because I remember Darren saying to me, oh, was it you? You looked upstairs. I went, no, because I was in the room right at the very front, like the living room type area. I said, no. He said, yeah, it was you. I said, no, it wasn't. I was in the other part of the building. And he said, I cannot believe what I'd just seen looking up the stairs. And it's the same as what we saw the last time we were here. Luke, was you in the room when that was looked up the stairs?
Yeah, I was looking the other way.
Hello, what's the matter with you? Don't ever look the other way. So I remember Darren adamant what he saw down them stairs, you know, and a lot of people said they saw it. And then what confirms it really for you is saying that you saw the same thing the year before or the last time you went. And yet there was nobody there because it was all quite locked up, wasn't it? When you went in there, and like a few people were in the very room at the very front, some were in the middle, and the rest were upstairs in the room where we saw the shadow and the mirror screen. So it's quite a place, that Lamb. It's quite scary. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Me and Jen stayed in a pub down the bottom of Shepton Mallet Prison. Was it called the Dust Bowl? Do you remember?
Yeah.
It was something like the Dust Bowl, but it's down the bottom of the hill. And it was a really hot weekend when we went there because the sun had been shining. We'd gone down on the bike.
Yeah.
We remember pulling up and going in there and booking in. And
Dust hole.
Dust hole.
I think.
Yeah. So he said, "Oh, what are you here for the prison?" We went, "Yeah, we're investigators." Blah 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 blah. He said, "Oh, you know this place is haunted, don't you?" We said, "All right, you can leave cameras out, can we?" He said, "Yeah, do whatever you like." He said, "But it's very haunted." So okay. So even in the room, we thought we heard footsteps in the middle of the night, like people passing the door. A couple of times I got out, looked out. There was no one there, but we clearly heard what we thought. It's difficult to sleep, wasn't it? Because there's a lot going on outside. Plus, we'd had the night in the prison, so you know it's quite. Your brain's still going in it hours after the investigation. You're still thinking about everything you've seen, done, heard. You know, you're desperate to go through your videos, but your eyes are hanging, aren't they? You get to that state where you really need to get to sleep. But
I've just
you're so
lightened.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
just lightened Gemma's photo. Gemma's just sent it to me. I've just lightened it and
Okay.
popped it across to Angela. So this might be a little bit clearer for everybody. Very interesting. Very.
So have a look at this picture, everybody's watching, and send in what you think, how you think, or what you think. But this is at the bottom of the stairs. The white door is what looks to be on the left-hand side.
Should I crop it a little bit?
I know it's.
Mine's down there.
Her legs, I think.
Her legs and shoes.
Her legs a bit.
Yeah. In a suit, isn't
Could be.
he? In a
There's
suit,
something there, isn't there?
man, in a suit.
I've just sent it again. This is a zoomed in.
Mm.
I
Send in
think
your thoughts.
that's probably about
everybody's
the best
watching.
I can do. And also
Yeah.
you can see that in places you can sort of see the carpet behind him, in other places you can't. So
Yeah.
but I've zoomed it in now, so that should be able to see that a little bit clearer now.
I don't know if you can remember. Was he in the same clothing that you saw last time you were there? Can you remember?
Oh yeah, I think it was like, it looked like a suit. When I looked down the stairs, it looked like a suit. So that's, and that almost looks like a,
Doesn't it?
you know,
can see
look
like
at the shoes. When you look at the shoes,
Yeah.
you see like black shiny
You
shoes.
can
So
see it.
Yeah.
Gemma, it's because everyone said they saw a man in a royal blue suit. Then I got that. Yeah,
It's a cracking picture, Gemma. Isn't it?
Yeah,
A great
that's one to be
picture.
proud of. Be proud of that one, Gemma. That's a really good one.
Absolutely.
And also,
That
if
is
you have a look where his like arm is, you can see the pattern of the carpet, and you can sort of slightly see it through his body.
Yeah.
Through the middle of his
Just
body,
slightly.
slightly see it, just slightly.
Yeah. How
But when
strange
I
is
saw
that?
him, he was so solid. Like, this photo has been lightened, so that's why, you know, he looks a little bit transparent. But
Yeah.
on the original photo, that's exactly what he looked like. You know, he just looked like a normal person. You wouldn't have thought twice that it was a ghost, because he just looked like he came through the back door. He walked past. I saw him walk past into the loo, and I thought, oh, you know, can't really go into men's loo and say, oi, what you doing? You know, you shouldn't be here. And then he
Hanging
came
about.
out, and he stopped at the bottom of the stairs. He like put the right hand on like the door as if he was going to close it. He looked up, and then he just like dropped his hand and then just walked out. So I don't know whether he thought, oh, there's no one up there, I'm going to close. What's that door doing open? There's no one up there, I'm going to close it. And then looked up and then thought, oh, there are people up there. That's almost like, you know, what he did. But I said at the time, I said, that's a bit cheeky, isn't it? I said, you know, we were in an event and we just got, you know, Joe Bloggs off the street walking. Not realising.
A man in a suit for definitely with shiny shoes.
Yes, yes.
It very well could be. Send in your comments if you've seen it. Tell us what you think of it. But it's
Well
a great
done, Gemma.
capture, Gemma. Yeah, it was a great capture. Gemma seems to capture these things as much as she's scared and screams and jumps and is very edgy, but she gets some great pictures. Very, very good pictures. You'll have to give us some tips, Gemma. Just, what is it, take a picture and then run? That's probably a better idea, isn't it, really? Do you have any more, Angela, on that? On your hunt for the...
The only other thing I can think of is a story that Darren told a few times about when he was in his local Weatherspoons in Havant. And this was before he met me. And he was sat at the bar and he saw this woman come in. And she was sort of dressed different to everyone else. I can't remember exactly, but I think she had like a big rimmed hat on and sort of like clothes that just weren't fitting for the time of the era that we're in, really. And he thought that was a bit strange. And he watched her sort of walk past and go off into the ladies' toilets. And then she just never came back out again. So he wasn't sure what that was about. She obviously didn't go out the window dressed like that, but
You've got a hat stuck, haven't you?
yeah.
It'd have been a hat stuck in the window.
Yeah.
The only other one I can think of is the one I remember I told you about my friend in Yorkshire, where he went into the pub that changed. Do you
Oh,
remember
yeah.
that?
Mm.
So that's quite. I'll tell you a brief. I'll quickly go over it. A friend of mine I've known for 30 odd years. He's a bit of a loner, likes to walk on the moors and that type of bird watching and that type of stuff. He's really much into that. Anyway, a friend of his has a cottage in Yorkshire in a place called Craven. So they said, "Oh, you can borrow it any time if you'd like to go." And he said, "Yeah, I'd love to do that and go for a walk." So he drove up on a Friday night into the village of Craven, found a cottage, sort of settled down for the night. So the following morning on the Saturday, decided to go for a walk and wander around. So off he went, gone all most of the day out walking, came back to the cottage, got changed, thought, "I know, I'll go to the local village and have a beer, a Yorkshire bitter or whatever it was he was going to have." So he got in the car, drove down the road, come to a T-junction. As he got to the T-junction, it was like a very small village. Right opposite was like a baker's and a shop, newspaper shop and a couple of other shops. And to the left of him was a pub. So he turned left and went left up, drove up into the car park there, walked back down, went into the pub, opened the door. And as he went in, he noticed the barman. It was a quite old fashioned inside, sort of really, really old fashioned. So he noticed as he went inside that the barman at the end of the bar was just standing with his arms crossed, looking straight at the front door. He's thinking, well, this is very odd. Never acknowledged him or anything like that. So he walked up to the bar, said to the barman, "Can I have a pint of your bitter?" So the barman, really old fashioned, where they pull the handle down. They do them now, don't they? Still have them pumps now. So he stood there. The barman pulled down the pump, filled the glass up. So my friend gave him a £5 note. He opened the wooden till, put it in, and shut the till, and just stood there looking at the door. He thought, "Cool, that's a dear pint," and never got any change. So he grabbed his paper, went and sat down, and he described the pub as being very dully lit. And there's a fruit machine and a music jukebox up on a bit of a different level, but the chairs were like horseshoe shape in the pub around. So he sat there thinking, well, this is not very good. There's not many people coming in this pub. So he's thinking, I hope people come in because it's a bit creepy, but never mind. So he's sitting there reading his paper, finished his pint, thought, "Oh, well, I'll go and get another pint." So he walks up to the barman, still standing there looking straight down the bar, straight to the front door. Never acknowledged him, nothing. So he's approached the bar, said, "Oh, can I have another bitter?" So he pours it out again, gives him another £5. He opens the wooden drawer, puts the money in, shuts the drawer, and stays looking at the door. Just as he's about to turn around, he hears the door, the pub open and shut. Bang. He thinks, "Oh, thank God for that. People have arrived. I'm not sitting here on my own." As he turned around, he described about 20 people in these horseshoe alcoves, like tables. And what he had noticed that they all had drinks on the table. So he's thinking, this is completely weird. What is going on here? So he's gone back to his table, started drinking his beer, but he's looking over the top of his paper at these people. So he's sort of looking at them. Nobody's talking. They're all just staring straight into space type thing. And he said he did notice that the drinks were at all different level. Like people had been drinking, but he hadn't seen them drink. But all the glasses were at different level. So I thought, wow, what's going on here? I don't understand it. The barman still hasn't moved. He's still looking at the front door. So he drinks up his beer and thinks, well, I'll go for a wee before I leave, because it's like half an hour drive back to the pub, back to the cottage. So he gets up, but the toilet's outside. So he goes up the level, goes to the fruit machine. The barman says, "Doesn't work." Oh, okay. So he goes to the jukebox, doesn't work. Thinks, "Oh, well, what's the point of having them lit up if either of them don't work? What's the point of that?" So he opens the back door to go to the loo, and there's a big dog, really going for him, although the dog's on the lead. And he thinks, "Oh, I'll go to wee when I get back." So he's got his paper on his arm. He walks back down. And just as he comes back down, he sees and he literally, seconds behind, he sees the pub door shut. He thinks, well, that's nice. He didn't even hold the door open because all these people had gone. So he opens the door literally seconds behind him, comes out into the high street, looks around. There's nobody. Gone. They've all disappeared. He's thinking, right, get in the car. Let's go. Let's just get out of here. Anyway, he drives all the way back to the cottage. All night he's thinking, what on earth was that? What on earth had happened in this? And the pub was called Craven and Heifer, as in the cow, had the heifer cow. So he wakes up in the morning, sort of not having a real restless night, decides to go back down and thinks, I'm going to go down and have a look. So puts in his sat nav, takes him to exactly the same place. There's the T junction, there's the paper shop, there's the baker's, there's the pub on the corner. So he turns, goes left, and then left again, parks in the car park, comes down, and the pub's all boarded up. All the shutters are boarded, the whole door, everything's boarded up. And he's thinking, I must have come to the wrong place, but down the hill, left again in the car park, same car park. So he's gone back to the car, checked the sat nav again. Yeah, I'm in the right place as I was last night. He noticed next door he could hear a noise, and it was like a mechanic's workshop next door. So he sort of wanders past the pub. It's all boarded up, and he says to this guy, how long's the pub been boarded up? And the guy says to him, why do you need to know that? He said, I'm just in the area doing a history thing and just wondered. He said, about 60, 70 years that's been boarded up. Nobody ever uses that ever again. And he's thinking, well, how can what has happened? So he looks over in the paper shop, so he gets back in his car, decides to go home. So he obviously driving all the way home. He's thinking about what he experienced and how am I going to tell people what I've experienced, because they think I'm a complete nutter when I start telling people what's happened to me. So anyway, it goes on for about 6 to 8 months he's thinking about, and he says to his brother, you ain't going to believe what I'm going to tell you, but listen to what I tell you. So he told his brother the story. So his brother said, and he phoned me up. He said, what do you think? I said, well, we'll go back. He said, no. There's no way that I'm ever going back there again. It's all right. So his brother decides to go back with his girlfriend. So they stay in the same cottage, drive down the road, come to the T junction, turn left. There's the pub on the left. So park in the car park, walk down. And it's like a typical pub, music going, youngsters in there drinking. But he couldn't see anything wrong. And he's thinking, okay, what's going on here then? He goes up to the bar. I'll have 2 of these beers. They'd had a couple of drinks anyway. And it was just like a normal pub, a village pub, no issues, friendly, welcome, come in and that. So he goes home and he says to my mate, what year would you say they were dressed like? He said, I reckon probably 1930s type dress and clothes, that type of era. So his brother says, oh, right, okay. So he gets his change out of his pocket, puts it on the table side next to the bed, and notices something different about his change. And when he looks at his change, he finds a 1930s penny in his change, which is really freaky. So anyway, he tells me the story, and I said, oh, well, I'll ring up the local church and see if anything's happened. So I rang the local church. They were not very accommodating, shall we say, about it. So I did a bit more digging. And in 1931, the miners had just finished a shift in the pit, and they were walking down the high street, gone into the pub, and the whole road and everything sank into one of the mines sinkhole and took up to about 21 people. They weren't sure how the total was, but 21 to 30 people had died in the sinkhole because it just sucked them down as they were going to the pub. And that's the only thing I can relate. And when I was doing the parapsychology course, I spoke to a lady that was talking about time travel, how people time travel and what's deja vu and all this type of stuff. And I explained it to her, and I said, this is going to sound mad. She said, no, just tell it. And she said, that you know what, people experience this all the time. She reckons what happened was, as he walked in, he went back in time. So he'd actually travelled back in time. So that's why the pub looked so old and wildy and darkly lit. And she said the dog barking at him was a warning to either leave the pub or you'd be stuck there. At that specific time he walked out, the pub, it changed time again, come back to the future time where we were. And she said often it can happen where people go into places and then they disappear and they're never found again because they never get the warning to get out. And that was a story from him. And she said, oh, I can believe that. So people often go missing, but we don't know whether they just don't get out of the building in time and it changes back to the time, and that's why they can never ever be found 60, 70 years later. Nobody ever knows where they are. So that's the
Like
story.
an episode of Doctor Who, doesn't it?
He, he just blew him away. He just didn't know. He said he thought it was a bit odd when he walked in there how old it was, and it was very dimly lit for a pub. But he thought, well, it's a village pub. It's just locals. But it was strange that nobody was there until this last time. And like she said, the dog was the warning for him to leave the premises before. Whether he would have been stuck there in time, I don't
Did
know.
anyone speak to him? Or, like, did the barman speak to him, or did he just go up
The
and
only
say,
thing-
"I'm here," and the barman just nodded?
The only thing the barman said was when he went to play the one-armed bandit or fruit machine, don't work. He said, all right. So he went to put some music on. He thinks, I've got to do something. And it is totally dire. And the barman went, don't work. That's the only voice contact he ever had the whole night. Never heard the people talking opposite him. He said, although the drinks were all different heights as well, but he knows they hadn't been to the bar and there was
So
no
was it
drinks on the
silent?
table.
Was it
I
silent
don't-
when he went
Yeah,
in there?
just-
Was it silent, just quiet?
Yeah,
Even
just
though
the
there's
one
loads of
barman. No, nothing. No one there. Just one barman standing in the middle, looking straight at the front door. He came in because he opened the door, walked in, and thought, "Oh, that's freaky. What's he looking at?" Because he was just sort of staring at the door. This barman, and I said to him, "How was he clothes?" He said, "How was his clothes?" He said, "You can only describe like a white shirt with a waistcoat, like 1930s type style barman in a waistcoat, a white shirt." He said, didn't acknowledge me, didn't look at me, just sort of looked straight through me. He said, what threw me at first was having an old-fashioned wooden till. He said, I thought, oh, okay, that's a bit odd, but never mind. And then not getting his change was another thing. And that happened to him twice. Same till, put it in. But the barman never took his eyes off the front door all the time, because even when these people suddenly arrived, he was looking over his paper thinking, this is really creepy. And he looked at the barman and he just stood watching straight down the pub, watching the front door, and never moved other than pulled the pipe, put it on the top, and that was it. So,
Makes you wonder that, if it's all boarded up and, they decide to like demolish it or whatever, that they go in there and they find the £5 note.
yeah, a modern day £5 note, that would be interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But when I approached the church to see if I could have a look at their records about the surrounding area, they were not very accommodating. Put it that way. You don't need to know what went on here. I was like, okay, fine, that's perfectly fine. You can't pursue it once they say things like you can't pursue it. But
It's just
I
strange.
often,
There's got to be some like local knowledge about it. So I don't see why they're so, secretive.
yeah. But I did say to him, we'll go back together and we'll research it, go to Craven and we'll research the area. I think it's become a different name now, the village. It's now changed its name. But he said, I will never, ever go back there. He said, I don't know what I saw, what happened to me on that night, but I will never, ever go back there just in case something else happens. I was at the wrong place at the wrong time, whatever. And I say this lady said, they had many incidences of things like this happen where people disappear and nobody ever finds them. Is it the same thing? Do they not get out in time? Did something happen that they can't come back? I don't know. It's a very, very odd story, isn't it? That one. Very strange. But his brother having a 1930s pennies in his change was the real clincher for me. Because how can it be going to a modern day pub and comes home and there's a 1930s pennies? He had about 2 or 3 of them. He showed me. They actually had like I don't know what you call it, like a halfpenny or something like that, and it 1930s mint stamped on it. I thought, how can that be? How could they have had a 1930s pennies in the change? So many 70, 80, 90, 100 years later, I don't know how long it was between, but how could it have been? How could you turn up with that in your change? And that sort of clinched it for me that, I know the guy and I've known him for 30 odd years and I know he's not a liar. He's not a putter on her. He's a very clever guy. He knows what his surroundings are like and he described it to a T. so you know he's been there because he described the pub. And when you look it up and you Google it, and it's exactly the same pub, the frontage, how he described it. Obviously, the inside's different, but it's exactly how you'd imagine. The car park is in an upper level, and you walk down the car park to the high street. And sure enough, when you Google it, there's the paper shop and the baker's opposite and the mechanic shop on the side. And, you know, it's exactly, but I think recently it's changed its name for some reason. Not sure why, but obviously. So, make of that what you will. So, if you have any comments on that story, please let us know. But, you know, I believed him. The clincher was, for me, was the 1930s pennies in his brother's change. You know, what are the chances of that ever happening? There you go. Any more comments?
Only these two.
The Francis Charles, the Bounty pub in Basingstoke is haunted too. Do you know that one, Julia?
I do know the Bounty.
Hospital.
Yes, I do know that one.
And the Basingstoke Hospital.
Yeah, it's a hospital, isn't it? So it's,
Full of spirits.
yeah.
And Gemma's put, I wonder if there are any non-working pubs we could investigate. What you
I've
want
always
is an
wanted to do,
abandoned pub.
A train station. I've always wanted to do a train
All
station.
right, yeah. Because there's one in Harwich you can do. You know that a haunted train station.
Oh right,
People in Harwich, in Suffolk, or Essex, is it? Harwich or Suffolk?
okay.
Essex.
Isn't it?
It's opposite the Harwich Redale Fault. There's a haunted train station there that people have investigations in. So quite often get scratched in there.
Oh.
So look that one up. That's quite a good one. The other one I did was, say I only done the one. I did one down the A3 once, but it was a disco. It was a very old-fashioned disco. I've got me. How old do I sound?
Discotheque.
I sound a real old one there. Do you know what a disco is, Luke?
Yeah, I do,
I know
yeah.
what disco is.
It's a very old nightclub.
Yeah, I know that, yeah.
It's a very old-fashioned nightclub. We all used to go. Me, Angela, Julia, and Jen, and all of them go to the disco. So it's a very old nightclub. For anybody watching that's young, we're showing our age a little bit here. We were asked to go there with another group that I was very much with for a long time, and it was down the A3, but it was a very, wanted a word, it was a two-story disco. So it was like a nightclub, but on 2 stories. So we were asked to go there because they were renovating it because it had been abandoned for many, many years. But it's such a beautiful building. They were renovating it. So the workmen were going in, but as they were going in, the tools kept going missing. And a couple of them got locked in, but they hadn't, the door, there was no locks on the door, so it was always open. So they contacted this group and we went in there late one night. And it's a typical haunted location. So you turn up and it's raining, so you're getting the drip, drip, drip. You know, the whole typical, you open the door as you go in, it's like creaky door. So you're thinking this is like a scene out of something insane. You know, someone's going to come running out of the darkness and grab you. It was literally was that, and you could hear the water dripping through the roof, drip, drip. I'm thinking, oh my God, what am I doing here in the dark? And it's raining. But anyway, we go in. We set the base room up just downstairs, and there's a beautiful, very ornate staircase to your right. And I was with 3 or 4 women at that time, as I was the only male investigator. They said, well, you go upstairs and we'll wait down here. And I thought, well, that's great. You know, I'm going to go upstairs in a haunted building on my own, up staircase. So anyway, I decided to go up the staircase, and they were putting equipment out.
No, all the staircase was missing.
Yeah, a lot of the handrail was missing, where people were stealing the very old-fashioned handrails on the stairs and all the wall art, you know, all the carvings on the wall. It was such a beautiful place, absolutely beautiful. But there'd been, what we found out after, there'd been a couple of murders there. So people have been, it was owned by a notorious person that would eliminate certain people because it's in the middle of, what's it called? Effingham Forest on the A3. It backs onto there. So it's very famous. And there's a big RAF base on the other side. Quite whether it's still there with the motorway now, I don't know. So anyway, we went in there and they said, you can look upstairs and we'll wait down here. And I thought, well, it's just great, isn't it? So I've gone up there, the big brave man I am. Yeah, I'll be all right. So made my way up through the holy steps and up to the top. And it's a very strange because there was rooms off of it. So I was upstairs. You come upstairs and you can walk along the landing to your right or to the left. And there were rooms going off, but the rooms you could go in one door and come out the other side, but further down the hall. So it was a bit of a circular. So I'm wandering around calling out, anybody here? Can you come forward? You know, normal sort of creepy stuff that you do on a windy, rainy, horrified night, like The Shining. So I'm walking along and I thought I could hear footsteps behind me and I'm thinking, what on earth is this? So I stopped and they stopped and I thought, and I turned around like you do, my heart's starting to race a little bit because I'm thinking, I know I'm the only one up here. So I turned around, nothing, no one there. I started to walk again. I could hear like footsteps behind me. If I was walking, that was walking. I stopped, it stopped. And I thought, well, kept turning around. And I walked all the way down the corridor, in and out of the rooms, and sort of did a figure of 8 in and out of the room. Couldn't see anything. And these footsteps were clearly walking behind me. So I stopped and, hi, Graham. Thank you for tuning in. So I stopped and thought, I've asked out and I could sense that a woman or there was definitely something behind me. So I thought, and when I looked on the floor, I thought, I know there's lots of dust in this room. So if I walk through the dust, maybe I can see something in the dust. So I've walked into the room and I'm looking behind me and I can see my footprints in the dust. So I come out the other side of the room and I could hear the footsteps behind me. And as I walked back round, I came back round into the room. And right behind mine was what I would describe as like size 5 ladies' feet, footmarks, shoe marks, the heel and the sole, right behind mine. And yet I could not see her. I didn't know who she was, but she followed, and I could see them in the dust. And I took photos many years ago of that. After I ended up running down the stairs, freaked out, and I took photos of them. I haven't got them now. I don't know where. I probably destroyed on one of my other phones that's backed up. But I should have backed my photos up like you should do. And I never, to this day, worked out. But there was footsteps behind my footprints, you know, shoe prints behind my shoe prints. And I know I was the only one there. And no one went up that night, only other than me. But that was a really, really creepy place. If you go along the A3, it's on the left-hand side. There's a Starbucks in the car park of it. And you'll see a derelict building on the left-hand side. It's right by the M25 A3 junction. And that's there. And it's still standing now. And I don't know whether they're renovating it again or what they're doing, but there's been a couple of murders there. So it's quite a place. It's quite quite privileged to go there, to be honest, because it's a very exclusive place and very beautiful, very, very stunning type house. You know, I imagine it. Somebody would have been very proud of that. But saying I haven't been to many, I've been to a few when I start thinking about it. But that was one of the better ones with the footprints. So,
when people start talking, it sort of like jolts your memory. And you're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that one and that one.
Yeah, it suddenly comes back to you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know how many haunted buildings you've actually been in, and yet you know you have creepy moments in them buildings, but you still go back, don't you?
And it's only when like someone asked me today, or what's the most like creepiest thing you've ever had that's ever happened to you, and I started saying, and then I sort of like said, oh, the cellar at Wimmering, and then I'm like, oh, this and oh, and it's just like someone just says something, and it's just it just reminds you of other things.
Yeah.
But hang on, I'm just doing a food order. I'm just gonna mute myself. Sorry, it's late. I
don't mind scampi. Angela, what would you like?
Scampi, yeah, got a bit of scampi.
About you, Luke? Choc ices or something? Lollies? Mum's gone to Iceland. So if there's no more comments, then we'll wait for Judy to drop back on. Well, I hope you enjoyed it tonight. It was a good idea, Angela. Well done. And the good clips. Well done for you for getting the clips on there. Excellent. I can see things moving in the background there, Angela.
I know, there's a little tiny spook next to me.
Ooh. It's floating in the Look, no strings attached. Ooh. Oh, look out. There's a spirit behind you. Hello, mate. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed tonight, the Haunted Pubs. Well, I'd say well done, Angela, for dropping the clips in, and Julia for lightening them, and Luke for your bit, Luke. And it's good to see. If you have any suggestions you want us to talk about, or you want to come on and talk about a subject, please do. There's a strange hand in the picture there, look, to the left.
I see hand.
My hand disappears. The part of my hand disappears.
Here's one. Yeah, I've seen your hand, look. It's supposed to make it disappear.
The whole little green thing.
Clever, eh?
So just say a big thank you for tuning in tonight. And hope you enjoyed Haunted Pubs and our collection of it, and Ghost Dragon
Thank you,
Investigations. Thank you for coming in. Graham, welcome. Christine and all the others that have commented, welcome. You're welcome to come every week. We do it every Monday. Next Monday I'm in Spain, so I may be able to do a Spaniel from Spain. Talk to you in Spanish.
Hola.
From Spain. Hola.
Hola.
Dos cervezas, por favor. So I'll have 2 couple of beers, thank you. So I may be able to connect. I'm not sure. I'm sure I will be able to, but if not, you'll be in the very capable hands of Angela and Julia, I'm sure.
With the time difference as well.
And Luke. Oh, there's no time difference in Spain.
Should we do it in Spanish?
Yeah, hola. Si, senor. No homework for next week. Everybody's talking Spanish.
Do Spanish
I bet there's
next
some
week.
people
We're
here.
speaking
Very
Spanish.
short episode.
I bet there's some people that can speak very fluent Spanish. Better than me. A lot better than me, I'd imagine. I just know enough to get by. Beer and food. That's all you need.
Sure.
Anyway, so thank you for tuning in tonight. It's been a pleasure, and happy Easter to you all. Have a great weekend. Stay safe next week, and we'll see you all next Monday. Stay tuned. If you've got any suggestions, please send them in, and we could chat about them. So, and I should be able to get on from Spain, but I'm not sure. But I'll say you'll be in the capable hands of Angela and Julia, and probably Luke. Abnormal Paranormal, I know Dave's still not very well, so we wanted to hear about is it Barrow Mump they went to? Yeah, so we will get them on here eventually. They can chat to us about their EVPs, which you can see on their YouTube channel, I think. Get them to explain them to us. So it only remains for me to say thank you for tuning in again tonight, and have a very, very safe week, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Yeah.